Welcome to the Getting Hired in AI, Finding Your Career Fit session, where today we're going to learn about early careers opportunities within 4 organizations, how their roles are structured, what skill sets are required, and what recruiters are looking for. My name is Adam Rikoshinsky. On behalf of everyone at Vector, we would like to thank you for joining this session and give a special thank you to our 4 panelists today for sharing their insights. We've also organized this discussion that we're going to have into 3 sections. So first being the roles in depth. A job description can only say so much, so we want to hear firsthand more details into the roles that are being hired for. Then the longer term trajectory. So what does a career path look like in that role in the longer term? And then lastly, the application and recruitment tips as well before the Q&A. We've got Bobby Dhungana, Director of Enterprise Data Science at OMERS. Welcome, Bobby. We have Laura MacDonald, Senior Campus Recruiter, Technology and Analytics at Scotiabank. Welcome, Laura. We have Suneet Joshi, Technical Recruiting Lead at Thomson Reuters. Hello, Suneet. And we have Teodora Trifan, the Senior Bilingual Recruitment Advisor for Talent Acquisition at Deloitte in their Omnia AI practice. Welcome, Teodora. I'm the least interesting person. I will cease doing most of the talking from this point forward. I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves in some more detail, talk a bit about their organizations, their area of focus, and a bit about the main roles that they're currently recruiting for, because the questions that follow are going to focus on those main roles. Over to you, Bobby.
Amazing. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. This is exciting. OMERS recently just joined the Vector family. We're really excited about the partnership, and we're really looking forward to seeing what we can do together, Vector and OMERS together. We're the first pension plan within Canada to join this industry consortium, so we're really excited about what lies ahead for us. So thank you, Vector, for this opportunity. So I am the Director of Data Science within OMERS, the Enterprise Data Science team. I also lead the Business Intelligence team. So what that means is my role encompasses overall analytics delivery in partnership with our enterprise data engineering team, our product team, product and strategy team, governance, and also with our business partners. So whatever we do, we are very product centric, and you'll hear about that from me throughout this event today about product. And that's what we do. We build products that are driven by data science, driven underneath by data, powered by data engineering, sort of created a moat around product and strategy. So you'll find that it's very product-centric what we do, but just so happens that we build it, whatever we build, using data science, machine learning, and AI. By the way, the roles we're recruiting for, I know Adam pointed that out, is mostly data scientists and people with engineering skills. So I'll expand on that further, but I don't want to take up a lot of time before I hand it off to Laura.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby. Similar to Bobby, super excited to be here. Also my first Vector event. So as Adam mentioned, I'm the campus recruiter for technology and analytics. So I do focus primarily on students. Maybe you're looking for a co-op, an internship. Maybe you're about to graduate or you've just recently graduated. Because I recruit for technology and analytics, often the roles that I recruit for are data science, data engineering, data analysts, also a little bit on the technology side too, so software engineering, business technology analysts, and some project or product roles. I can elaborate on that a little bit further, but for now, I will pass it off to Suneet.
Thank you, Laura. Just a big thanks to Vector Institute for hosting the event. Myself, Suneet Joshi, I've been with Thomson Reuters for almost 3.5 years, and I lead the technology recruitment for Thomson Reuters for the North America region, US and Canada. My main areas of focus are product engineering and labs. That's the name we use, but it's the research and development arm of the company. And right now we are going through a tech modernization journey, a change program in the company. And it's all on the news as well. Like if you just Google change program, Thomson Reuters, you have to know about more like what we are doing here. And as a part of that journey, we are hiring a lot of talent. So applied research scientists, multiple sort of seniority levels within it, software engineers for our labs team, co-ops, interns, research interns, data science interns, software engineering interns. So that's what we are here for, to meet you all and get to know you better, and you get to know us better, what Thomson Reuters is, and looking forward to that. Over to Teodora.
Thank you, Suneet. And thank you, Adam and the Vector Institute for, having me and Deloitte and everyone on the line here today. Amazing event, amazing turnout as well. So thank you. When it comes to myself, I have been with Deloitte Omnia specifically since 2018. I lead the experienced hires recruitment across Canada for all of our service lines in Omnia. We have a variety of different service lines, essentially each kind of focusing on different professional services and consulting services we provide to our clients, everything from a product-based team in AI Factory to our data science team, our insights and engagement team, our AI strategy team, and then obviously probably the biggest, especially nowadays, the data modernization and analytics team. And I say the biggest just because that does encompass everything you can imagine in the data space. And it's definitely, for us at least, is definitely one of the highest growth teams within Omnia. Across Omnia, we do everything, as I said, from strategy to product to data science to data as well. We have a lot of different roles. Some of them are completely posted online. Some of them are yet to come. I'm actually going through that exercise as we speak. So you will see more opportunities open up. And some opportunities, especially when it comes around campus roles, have recently closed because our cycles are a little bit different. But that doesn't mean that we won't have new ones opening up or that we don't have openings for more entry-level students, because we do. At any point in time, we can definitely hire across all levels as well, from analysts to directors and perhaps even partners, depending on each individual's skill sets and alignment to our needs. So definitely take a look at our career page, see what's available. If nothing is available, email me directly or message me on LinkedIn. Very happy to chat about any questions you might have. And thank you, Adam. On to you.
Thank you, Teodora, and thank you, everyone, for your responses there. We're talking a bit more in depth now about some of the roles being recruited for, and it's not every day you get the insider view. You get to see our bedrooms or Thomson Reuters office in Suneet's case, but you also get the insider view that job descriptions cannot do justice to. So next question, we want to take a look about the roles that you've discussed in terms of what you're recruiting for. And we want to know what a typical day in the role looks like. And I know a lot of people say there's no typical day, no such thing. If that is the answer, then we'd like you to talk about what one day could look like in the role to give us a better view here of that. So let's start off. We'll go Suneet, Teodora, and then Bobby.
Thank you, Adam. And you rightly started that. I will put it like this. On an ideal day, talk about an applied research scientist, how their day looks like at Thomson Reuters. You start with your regular stand-ups. You're working on your day-to-day coding part, research part, where you're included in literature research, exploring and preparing data, implementing offline experiments or building prototypes, and even giving demos to our stakeholders, writing and reviewing the production code, algorithms, training models, analyzing results. And you're also involved in your writing part, because we do collaborate with a lot of academic institutions as well. Our researchers work on those areas. They design docs, one-pages that are then used to share ideas and feedback with the academic institutions we are partnering with on research work. And also reading, reviewing papers. Even a part of Thomson Reuters, I wouldn't call it a perk, but just for the labs team, you are allowed to publish your work. So it's totally an optional part. And if you are involved in it, then you're working in your day-to-day that part as well. You're a part of meetings. We try to keep meetings very minimal so that we can spend more time on actual piece of work. But wherever it is required, you're part of meetings for coordination, communication with your teams, because you work with global teams in TR based on any location you work. We have teams in the Europe region, in Toronto, in US, in India, in Singapore as well. So that's what I would just say the day looks like.
Thank you, Suneet. I guess for us in Omnia, this is a really tricky question, because it does depend a lot on the team you are a part of, because the nature of the work of our, let's say, AI strategy team is very different from the nature of the work that our more kind of technical applied hands-on teams would do, such as our data teams, our data science team, our AI in insights team. It also depends a lot on whether you are in a client-facing position or not, or whether you are on a client engagement or not. Because if you are on a client, in a client-facing role, on a client engagement, a lot of your job, a lot of your time will be spent essentially working directly with the client. And that the range of those responsibilities would really depend on, your level within not just Omnia and Deloitte, but your, so to say, position within the project, because all projects would be different. It would be at different stages in the life cycle as well. I guess just to give a big picture overview, and this is really a big picture, if you were were, let's say, on the AI strategy team, for instance, high level, you would spend a lot of time, so to say, hand-holding the client in terms of bringing them through the AI journey they are on. So helping them understand essentially what, for instance, AI is and can or cannot do for them, how AI can be implemented, what advantages or perhaps challenges they may face in implementing AI, and then collaborating not just with internal resources from the client's end to hopefully make those goals happen, but also with internal Deloitte and Omnia teams to essentially help deliver on those needs. Some clients would only need kind of the roadmap, perhaps, or the strategy, for instance, whereas other clients, they would need the full engagement from A to Z. And because in Omnia we provide all of those services, there is a lot of collaboration that goes on a daily basis, not just with the client, but also with our other teams internally. So a lot of our people would spend time kind of navigating the two worlds, so to say, the client's world and the Omnia Deloitte's world teams. And if you were to think about, I guess, specific tasks you could engage on a daily basis, in addition to those, meetings and communication and whatnot that we all know are a reality of today's world, it would be anything from, putting together a PowerPoint to putting together and or presenting report, helping with RFPs, SOWs. If you were in a hands-on technical role, it would also be actual delivery and implementation of the technology, for instance, that is being proposed. Even things like tactical as helping the client move to the cloud, for instance, or very kind of hands-on applied things, right? Same for our data scientists, building algorithms, improving them, and so on. Again, the nature of the work would be very, very different depending on the team you would be a part of in Omnia, the client's engagement, the client's stage in the engagement process, and your role within that team, because it's never just a one person's shop. It's a multi-team, multidisciplinary team type of engagements that we tend to run. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to be more specific later on, but I think this probably gives a good overview. Bobby, on to you.
So like Adam said, there is no typical day, at least now, for the team. Might change in the future. But right now, because we are very much sort of boots on the ground, product centric, as in we are building things that our end users or business partners or internally within the team itself can use, that product centricity changes what we do on a day-to-day basis. However, there is a pattern to a typical day. I think somebody mentioned, I think it was Suneet or Teodora, stand-ups are a thing, right? Because we do try to be agile most of the time. It's not always possible. Sometimes some things require research and deep dives, and maybe end up reading papers and plagiarizing code from Stack Overflow. Those things take time. And so because of that, we may not always end up being agile all the time, but we try to be. At least we maximize our sort of agility. And so a typical day, typically a stand-up for the product you're working on, maybe a little bit of research, a little bit of reading on what might be best for the product itself. There's a lot of hands-on coding as well. We do build products from the ground up. We leverage things like cloud. We leverage things like virtual machines out there, whether it's some of the more popular public cloud providers like Azure, GCP, AWS. That's great, but we're not sort of married to that domain so much as we are sort of very much in line with making sure we know what we're doing. So we try to leverage, wherever possible, easy solutions that can get some of the more nitty-gritty, mundane tasks done. The cloud enables us with that. And at the same time, by the way, we do partner very heavily with other teams. That could be the data engineering team. We need a lot of support from the data engineering team. And that's something to keep in mind as well in your careers, is that you will never just do AI and ML work. Most of the work, at least my experience has been that you will mostly be doing engineering work. That's where a lot of the work happens. And so we partner with them heavily, or we do some of the data engineering ourselves, given capacity constraints sometimes. And lastly, of course, we meet with our stakeholders a lot because we don't build products in isolation. Value is very important for us, as I'm sure it is for everybody here on the panel and for you as well. And so everything we do, we try to make sure that we either try to start tracking or work towards a value number. What is the value of the work we're doing? As a pension fund, almost a quasi-government entity, it's even important for us. All of our people, the people who fund our plan, are the public members like you. Maybe some of you are members of the OMERS plan, firefighters, paramedics, cops, and whatnot, public civil servants. And so because of that, we are very conscious about the value of the work we're doing. And so we constantly visit of everything we do down to the code level. Like, what does this particular piece of product do for the value? Is it necessary? Do we do it in the first iteration, or do we do it in the next year? And these things are very important for us. So outside of the development, the code, the engineering, the DevOps and the Git and, orchestration and all that kind of stuff, far more important for us, like with any other engineering team, I think this is a common pattern, is the value piece. So most of our day is spent thinking about value. Well, not most of our days, but at least we try to. Right? And that's my job as the director, is like, okay, guys, or folks, what are we doing with this product? What's the value? Is this worth our time? And if it is, let's keep accelerating. So that's what a typical day looks like. There's meetings, obviously, because we're in a pandemic, there's a lot of screen time for all of us. I'm sure we're trying to minimize that. Now that we're back in the office a little bit, we are meeting in person. That has greatly helped us collaboration-wise. So we do a little bit of that, day or two a week. Not mandatory, but we do it. And that's a typical day.
I want to ask all our panelists, talk about company culture and how they would describe their company culture, who would be a good fit.
Company culture, very, very dynamic, very fast moving, very flexible in everything we do and everything we aim to do. And yes, screen time is not helping anyone at this point, but I think it has helped us become more efficient. Definitely has helped me in my function, because everything and everyone, especially today's job market and candidates market, is so fast moving that we have to take advantage of any strategies and tools we have to become more strategic and more efficient. So being strategic and being efficient is definitely one of the things we always look for in our people, in our candidates as well, because everything we do, again, is so dynamic. Everything is so fast moving. There is so many different pieces to every single puzzle we always work on. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are within Omnia and within Deloitte. And it's definitely part of kind of the soft skills, so to say, that we look for in our candidates and in our employees as well. The other thing is problem solving. Because we are in the professional services consulting industry, we problem solve. So our culture is pretty much based on that. It's essentially this ability to wear multiple hats, jumping into different, conversations and meetings and engagements and clients and industries and technologies and everything that, is part of the AI ecosystem when it comes to Omnia, and is part of the technology ecosystem when we're talking of things that touch to what Omnia does, which is AI work, but may not necessarily be related entirely to AI per se. So if I were to summarize the Omnia culture, I would definitely say dynamic is probably the best characteristics at this point. But everything I just mentioned, fast moving and all, would probably be just at the same level when it comes to things we currently possess and things that we always strive to possess and to become even better at with our people and candidates. Omnia culture is one thing, and when you go into each of the specific teams we have, and you almost find like subcultures, mini subcultures, but then you bring everything back up to the big umbrella and it kind of all aligns back again. So it's a very tricky question, but dynamic, I think, is across the board.
Apologize, I'll fix my camera shortly. Company culture. So we are primarily a pension fund. Our organization invests in various asset classes on behalf of our pension members. So it's a heavily regulated company in that regard. That being said, within that, our team in particular and the company in general is actually, quite modern in many ways. When my current boss reached out to me a long time ago and said, "Hey, do you want to come work here?" I'm like, why would I work at a pension fund? Like, that just sounds boring. But I realized a lot of the innovation work that was happening behind the scenes, I was told about it, they pitched me on it, and genuinely very surprised. So I guess the idiom, don't judge a book by its cover, really applied in this case. When I came here, there was a lot of appetite for innovation, for modernization, and of course, for machine learning and AI. So culture here is one of innovation. There's a lot of cool things happening, and you'd be surprised. I'm sure some of you are asking, right, in the pension fund? Well, yes, even in the pension fund, there's a lot of cool things happening. There's work we're doing around, sustainable investing and all kinds of things. So culture-wise, very innovative, very open, very candid. One of the things that I really like, especially within our team, the data and analytics team, is that we try to foster what I experienced and what a lot of us in our team experienced as former academics in university and colleges, which was open, honest conversation and a very scientific rigor, which is about, if you present an idea, present a thought, you're suggesting something that goes through pretty rigorous, but very honest, like friendly sort of acceptance criteria, so to speak, right? We present, we discuss, we slice and dice quite a lot before we decide on a product journey. So very open, very friendly, very candid, but at the same time, very conducive for innovation and people who work hard and want to have an impact. So I want to summarize it that way.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say almost similar to what Bobby said. When I was joining the bank, my view of banks was kind of maybe stagnant, a little bit older. Someone's in the same role for a long time. But I was taken very off guard. All of the students that have been in co-op roles, that have joined as new graduates, have been very taken off guard by how it's totally the opposite. So much innovation, so much growth at Scotiabank. We actually invested almost $4 billion in technology last year, which I think is more than the other banks combined. So many areas for opportunity there. And, the campus team is very well set up for, supporting you in your co-op role. We have actually programs that you enter into if you're in a co-op. So you have a program manager whose literal job is to make sure that your co-op term is great. And they sit down with you to talk about your development, your career goals, and kind of set you up for success in your future. And then the other thing that I really wanted to touch on as well is how approachable everyone has been. We're an organization of almost 90,000 employees across the world, but there's no one who is too busy to chat with you. Anybody that I reach out with, always has 15 minutes, 30 minutes to explain something, to sit down with you, talk about whatever it is. And that includes the leaders as well. The leaders are so engaged and interested in the new talent that's coming in. And we have tons of workshops and leadership chats because they really want to see the future leaders of the company. So I think that's really awesome. And, I have been completely remote the entire time that I've been at Scotiabank because I started after the pandemic. I think I've seen the office once, but I definitely feel like I know my colleagues really well. And I still feel that culture, even though I'm just sitting here in my room at home. I guess off to Suneet is the last one.
Thank you, Laura. Actually, you remind me of my, not first day, but interviews. I actually thought of Thomson Reuters. You have to wear a tie, you have to wear a suit at your interviews, and you go there. Otherwise, you're not selected. But to my surprise, people were wearing shorts in the office when I came for an interview, all decked up in my suit. So Thomson Reuters, honestly, I put it whenever I talk to students or any candidate, it's a 160-year-old startup for me. The culture we see here is completely like a startup. We never had cubicles in the office, and now it's all virtual, so it's much easier. So you are that approachable point of view. Yes, it's really approachable. You can reach anyone in the office, talk to anyone without even having a thought that, okay, this person is a chief technology officer or a head of engineering. No, you're talking to people by their name and sharing ideas, discussing new plans. And even we define our culture in two ways. We call it mindsets and behaviors, and that's also a part of our interviews as well. Mindsets is how we think, and behaviors is how we act. And within that, there are certain points that we always look at when we are even interviewing candidates, selecting candidates. So I'll be answering both questions together in a way. We look for candidates, for employees who are customer obsessed. And by customer obsessed, we look for people who are relentless. They're curious about learning more. They're curious about learning about the business, about the customer. They're agile. They use data. They test things. They test things before production, measure, iterate on things. If you are working on solutions, you are working with your partners, working with your stakeholders outside and inside the company. Like how Bobby mentioned that you're not working in a silo, you're working with your product teams, you're working with the engineering teams. So co-create solutions and be a trusted partner. And then challenge and commit is another mindset that we look for, someone who is engaged in dialogue and respectful disagreement, because we don't want just someone saying yes to everything. There should be disagreement. That is how new ideas come to the table. Commit to outcomes, focus on your results over activity, and take ownership and accountability. Having a growth mindset is also important for us as a company culture, embracing the change, because see the change we have witnessed over the last year, nobody knew that's coming. So embracing the change, challenging ourselves, and coming with diverse perspectives, having diverse teams in place, not just diverse from location perspective, but from backgrounds as well. People from different race, ethnicity, gender diversity. We really push for that in our company. And seeking and offering candid feedback to each other to support learning and taking feedback in a positive direction. And fail fast, learn fast. That's definitely part of our growth mindset idea. And for our people leaders, some of the three key themes are model, coach, and care. You need to pursue high performance. You need to make sure you're balancing performance with well-being for your employees in your teams, providing them enough break times. They should not burn themselves out, especially knowing that during the virtual period since the last year, it's really hard to get away from work because now your home has become your workplace. So how do you make sure that you're separating yourself from that? Keeping that in mind, we have this behavior aspect for our leaders to look at model and drive change and innovation by doing that. And coaching them culture where we cultivate a growth mindset. We set a compelling vision for our teams, coach them towards it. If they are not coming with that background, they don't have the skill set that we are looking for, but they have the right fundamental knowledge. They're very strong in that area and they are passionate to learn. We are going to invest in you. We are going to coach you and empower you to sort of reach there where your dreams are and build the next generation of diverse leaders. That's definitely one of the key areas we are really working on right now. And that's a goal for our entire company, not just for the talent acquisition team, but for the entire company, that we build the next generation of diverse leaders. And by leaders, I'm talking about directors, vice presidents, heads of certain segments within our company. And last, I think caring for your employees. Know your people, know them at a personal level, help them reach their potential, work with them to help them understand and realize what their actual potential is, and prioritize well-being for yourself and your team. Especially the pandemic taught us huge things. Like we saw that we had to support people when it was difficult for them to stay away from their families in a different country. And we allowed them to go back to their countries, work from there, stay close to their families, because that's what care is about. You have to care for your people and actually do it versus just saying it. So that's the culture we have.
Suneet, and thank you, everyone. It's really interesting to hear very different perspectives from different organizations. You know, we just have 4 here, and you compare that, there's 30 of them that people are going to be seeing in about 20 minutes. So just how different organizations are is one key area of what's a good fit for you. Okay, so let's talk now. We'll talk about longer term career paths and the roles that everyone's been speaking about. So my question is, what does that longer term career path look like for someone in the positions you spoke about? And let's assume that they're staying at your organization. So talk about what does that growth internally look like, and if there's options and different areas of exposure they can get their hands wet with. So we'll go Bobby, Laura, Teodora, and then Suneet.
Like a lot of organizations, we are fairly traditionally structured, and there's roles that center on individual contribution. There's roles that focus on managerial skills and technical and similar contributions. So senior manager contributions, executive contributions, that sort of thing, where you're leading more and more people, higher and higher levels of responsibility, both financial and people. And so it's nothing new there in terms of the structure and the hierarchy. But in terms of growth within OMERS, it's interesting because we have a core data and analytics team that's an enterprise team that sort of is like sort of the hub. We have a hub and spoke model that we aspire to, where we build out the hub, and the hub sort of helps out the rest of the organization by way of spokes, if that makes sense. So we're kind of like the hub, the center of all of the activities in data and analytics and data science. And so in terms of growth, depending on where you start or land within the team, if you're, say, a junior data scientist or a data scientist, you would typically start your career off mostly as an individual contributor, working in teams, reporting to a manager or senior manager. And moving up the chain, as you spend more time with the company, you contribute more, you see your growth, we see your growth through coaching and or learning opportunities, development opportunities. There's plenty of support for that. We recently launched a Data and AI Academy. So if you want to upskill, you want to add on more skills, you want to go out and learn something, there's opportunities for development there. And with that comes the opportunity for advancement within the company. And you would typically see rising through the ranks as a manager, senior manager, and that sort of thing. Fairly standard roles. I don't think that's anything new there. They're very easy to understand and follow. So that's sort of a career path. Now, as you move up the chain, you move up the ranks and then you grow in your career, you will find yourself diverting time from core research and development activities and engineering activities to more people management, more leadership, more producing assets for executive teams, saying this is our strategy. So it shifts, your day shifts or your week shifts, depending on how you work, from contribution to development to more managerial, more people management, more strategy, more that sort of thing. And with that comes a lot of decks and presentations. And that's a core skill you'll have to learn to develop and adopt over time, because presenting what you know, what you're about to do, and what you will do budgets and whatnot is a key component in any business, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit, because at the end of the day, things cost money, resources cost money, we all cost money. We have to tell people that the value of the work we're doing, and so that's when the growth comes in, right? But along the way, fortunately, you will learn those skills. There will be people who will coach you through it, either your direct manager or your executive, and then that sort of thing. So a lot of hand-holding, but as you grow, the responsibilities do grow. That doesn't mean you want to go stay on the technical track. For a lot of you who are comfortable with that, there are no room for advancements. There absolutely are. Depends on the size of the team and the maturity and the scale that we are at the moment. But there is an avenue that you can take purely on a technical track that says you would lead or you would be part of more of a research-based team. So that also exists, because that is also how you can add value. So both options exist. It's a matter of which direction you want to take, and that flexibility also exists. Happy to answer more questions later, but I do want to give time back to the other panelists.
So I think what I'll do is I'll just start the career path as if you're doing your co-op maybe in data science. So you do a co-op term, part of our velocity program. And then if you're a high performer, maybe another co-op term. If you're a high performer, you would just get asked back and you would be able to talk with our program manager on exactly what role that is, whether it's a similar role, something in a different team, a different role altogether. Maybe you want to try data engineering instead of data science. So you would get asked back. And then after that, we also have new graduate programs that are rotational. So our technology program is called Ignition, and there are lots of opportunities in there within the data and analytics space. And then we also have a new program launching this year, actually, in the customer insights, data and analytics area of the bank. And these new graduate programs are really about kind of launching you into your career as a future leader. So they are rotational. It's a 2-year program, and you do 4 6-month rotations, which is really neat because maybe you're someone who knows that they really like the data space, but you're not exactly sure what role you want. And it's kind of daunting sometimes as a student, the role might look really different. So this is a really neat opportunity to try different things, try different teams, since it is such a large organization, and kind of gain some of that experience. And while you're in that program, there's tons of workshop opportunities, leadership chats. You get exposed to a lot of different contacts and leaders at the bank. And then kind of the ultimate goal out of that is that after the 2 years, you'd be placed into your full-time role, whether that be one of the teams that you rotated through or one of, the contacts that you've talked with and you're really interested in another role. And so the kind of ultimate goal is that you're placed at a manager level after only 2 years from this program. And then similar to what Bobby was mentioning, there are so many opportunities, so similar trajectories, senior manager, director. If you're a high performer, there's no kind of set time period on when you would get those promotions and as your career projects. So I'll pass it on to Teodora was next.
I think we are not your traditional company and non-traditional career path and perhaps levels as well or titles, because we do find very often when people join us, especially if they come from the industry, like my fellow panelists here, we do have slightly different expectations of titles and levels than we have and that we provide. And really the main reason is we don't really have, at least in Omnia, we don't really have this idea of individual contributor type of role. We don't really have this idea of individuals not doing certain things or not being able to do certain things because of the level they're at. You could be in any level whatsoever and you could still be helping or doing and or being responsible for things that would not necessarily be, so to say, in your job description for your specific level. Our levels, to be more formal, I guess, our levels start with analysts, then it moves to consultants, senior consultants, managers, senior managers, directors, and partners. If you were to stay kind of on this kind of path that I just mentioned, that would be the most frequent path we see. But if you were interested in staying very, very technical only throughout your career, you would probably be on the technical path, the specialist path, we call it, which would essentially be analyst, consultant, senior specialist, lead instead of manager, senior lead instead of senior manager, and then director, and then partner. The difference is really that someone who is on the more technical path at manager/lead level and beyond would spend less time on resource managing and practice growth, business development type of activities, and more time on the pure technical hands-on things versus someone who goes through manager, senior manager path, who would always kind of spend increasingly more time involves non-technical activities as well. And what I meant to say at the beginning when I started answering this question about not being able to do some activities because of your level, what I meant to say is that if you were at the consultant level, for instance, yes, you wouldn't have practice growth and business development growth targets as part of your level, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to do those activities if you really wanted to. You would still be helping and you would still be doing a lot of PowerPoints. You could still be helping with RFPs and client engagements, direct client conversation as well. So you could definitely be involved in that sales component as well. And then you could also potentially find yourself in a position that you may be not necessarily resource managing people, but you may be an advisor to more junior employees, because we do have a buddy in the coach system. Essentially from day one, when an individual joins us, whether through campus or through experienced hires, they are paired with a buddy and a coach to help them navigate Deloitte, help them navigate Omnia, help them grow in their career path, whatever that may be and wherever it may be within Deloitte globally. And even at the consultant, even at the analyst level, you could find yourself with those, so to say, people management responsibilities, in the sense that you might be the coach of someone, or you might be someone's buddy, for instance, from there at day one. Yes, you won't be involved with like resource allocations for projects. That only comes at more senior levels like managers and beyond. But the reality is that you could be helping with those initiatives and beyond at any point throughout your career with Deloitte. And I said Deloitte Global because if for whatever reason you found yourself not happy in Omnia, for instance, you could always transfer to another team within Deloitte Canada or transfer to another entity within Deloitte Global. So you're not necessarily stuck in any position or in any teams that you may be joining. You could be joining another team or another entity or a limited term project for an engagement, or you could potentially just transfer to them permanently if that fits your interest more. Same thing with the skill sets you would be helping on. It's not because you were at a certain level or at a certain point in your career growth that you would be required to only focus on some skills or only focus on some industries or functional areas, for instance, or technical areas. You would really be able to leverage all different types of resources and trainings and people we have, Deloitte University, our AI Institute, our AI Academy, our internal and external trainers and trainings and certifications we have our people go through if they so wish to, for at any point in your career and for any reason whatsoever, if it makes sense for your career growth with Deloitte. Much to Laura's point, there is also no time-bound promotion, in the sense that you could literally be promoted to the next level when you're ready. And obviously we would be given all the support that is required and all the training that is required for you to be successful. And we always try to set up people for success, whether it's at the very beginning when they join us or later on at any point throughout their career. Again, whether within Omnia or outside of Omnia itself. I hope that answered the question, but if you have any other questions, more than happy to chat further.
Thank you, Teodora. So I think I'll pick up from the start. Like, we have research interns or data science interns who start with us, and we literally work with them to be able to provide them a full-time opportunity even before their term ends. We just did it just a day before, where we have offered one of our interns a full-time job. Their term was ending at December. So again, no time-bounded promotions, things like that. They start as a full-time just from October itself. So we're not going to wait till December. So that's where it starts from. You join as an intern, you move into a full-time position. So we call our first levels as intermediate. We don't put that in the title, but just say applied research scientist. You grow from there as a senior, you grow from there as a lead, as a principal researcher. And then obviously few people, depending on where do you see yourself, like, do you want to move into more of a people management role along with your individual contributor position? So if you do that, then you are moving towards more of managerial roles instead of moving to a lead or a principal researcher. So there are different areas you go to. And then as you move up the ladder, you move into a manager, senior manager, director, senior director, vice president, and then one day maybe the head of the labs division. So that is the career trajectory. And one perfect example we have for our Toronto location, the director of data science, he started as an intern with us and he's a director today. So that's a career progression that I would definitely like to call upon. Now, what you need or how Thomson Reuters helps you achieve that is that for any role you start in, you are growing yourself within that role by increasing your knowledge, depth, and breadth from both sides. Focus on becoming subject matter experts for your areas, be it machine learning, NLP, AI, information retrieval, deep learning. What is your skill sets where you see that the company also will benefit from? Increase your knowledge base in those domains and simultaneously increase your breadth of knowledge by working with different stakeholders internally and externally. As I mentioned, that you partner with academic institutions as well. You partner with your product teams, engineering teams, ops teams as well. So any individual, as they grow in this role, will also have to contribute and plan towards building a team of future scientists for the team at Thomson Reuters or at any company. So be it you do it in a form of a people leader or even as an individual contributor, you'll be a part of those hiring decisions. You'll be a part of those interviews. So thinking about that as you grow in your career, that you have to bring more similar future scientists for the team who can help the company grow for future, and learning about the business applications that we work on by working with extended teams is a given. So I don't want to take up more time. Adam, over to you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm just looking at the clock here. So why don't we do 30 seconds each? The types of projects that candidates should have on their resume when applying, AI or ML skills that you would suggest they have.
Thank you, Adam. I'll take the first question. I think it's what kind of projects do you expect the candidates to have on their resumes while applying? So everyone has their own special skill sets. Someone would be focused on more research towards, or someone will be focused more towards machine learning. So whatever your niche or your expertise is, based on whether you are coming from a master's degree or you are just from a PhD degree, what was your thesis background, what was the project type? Based on that, any projects you've worked on, be it on the academic front, be it in the internship side, or be it just your personal projects, do highlight them in your resume, any of those. And it doesn't matter what those projects were, it's all about what you have done in those projects. So if these are even open source projects sitting in a GitHub repository or some Kaggle competitions you won, you should definitely highlight that in your resume. That's something which is hyperlinked and we can just click on it and see it, because each and every resume that we get, we review it very carefully instead of just using some sort of AI bot system to eliminate candidates.
Thank you. Over to Tid.
Much to Suneet's point, we also have human reviewers. I myself am one of them. And essentially the review process is actually a very thorough process when it comes to our candidates, from the resume stage all the way through the interview process itself. Essentially what we look for in resumes is relevant experience to the job itself, but also the team and the space. And what I mean by that is that you don't necessarily have to have hands-on technical AI or a machine learning or a data science background if you're not interested in those hands-on type of roles. Meaning that if you're a data scientist, or if you want to be a data scientist interested in one of our data science roles, we would be looking for data science and AI machine learning experience on the resume, whether it's something formal and official, or whether it's academic projects you would have done in your spare time or anything online. But if you're interested in something non-technical, like the AI strategy team, for instance, you could literally be coming from any functional or a technical domain whatsoever, whether related to the AI machine learning data science space or not. But we would be interested in seeing strategy work. If you're coming from the financial sector, for instance, we would be interested in seeing that you have done some strategic type of work, let's say in your bank, in your financial company, and then that you have some sort of knowledge and understanding of the data and hopefully the AI domain/ecosystem as well. So again, it doesn't have to be formal education, like you don't need to have a master's degree or something like that. You could, just have taken some Coursera or some interesting, valuable courses, but we would need to see that you have a passion and an understanding of the AI space and how you can combine and apply that to your domain of expertise. In the example I gave, the financial industry with an AI focus on it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm seconding some of the GitHub or openly available projects. But if you do that, please don't rip somebody's project and clone it and put it on your own. Don't do that. It's easily distinguishable. We can typically find out. It's very easy to do so. Put your own effort in. Creativity is always welcome. Even more important is how you put your projects out there, because most of your projects, in fact, all of them are likely to be technical. It's a lot of code assets. Sure, you know how to write good code. That's very important, right? Because you're not just writing code, you're building assets. These are engineering assets. These are hard things that live on. And so we want to see if you can write good code. It's very important, right? You can write something, maybe you leave the company, not documented. No one's going to know what you did. So you want to make sure that this thing lives on. It lasts for posterity, people 5-6 years down the line. That's a mark of a good engineer, right? Because remember, you're not doing data science under the hood. You're doing engineering work. And so for good engineering work, you need to do it right from the get-go. So we want to see the foundational skills in addition to just data science skills. So I'll leave it at that.
I mean, I agree definitely with the panelists on everything that they've said. GitHub for sure, great thing to use to kind of demonstrate your projects that you've done. It doesn't have to be prior work experience projects. Could be anything, again, that you've done at school, that you've done outside of school. I think projects maybe that are a little bit more in depth, maybe a little bit, you've worked on them for a longer period of time. Like if you're trying to decide which ones to kind of highlight, you know, if you went to a hackathon and did a project over a weekend versus a project that you worked on for a number of months. Definitely the one that you've worked on a number of months shows that you really were more in depth in that, and you can speak to that then if you're able to come into an interview. And yeah, definitely kind of as Bobby said as well, just making sure that it's something that you've worked on, because that can be distinguishable as well if it's a project maybe that you're part of a group of but didn't have a huge aspect of the group.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you to all of our panelists today for sharing their insights.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, everyone.